Hey guys, Titan here, head coach of Team Secret. We're going to take a look through the patch review notes for the new season that came out of Operation North Star, and we also might look into the new operator Thunderbird. So let's quickly just take a look through the intro here. Introducing Year 6, Season 2, obviously. So Thunderbird, who comes from the Nakoda territories in Canada, and possesses the Kona healing stations, which heal operators in the service as on the battlefield, I guess. So you can expect balancing changes to Melusi, Smoke, Mirror and Nuke, a redesign of the scoreboard, and many more things. Let's have a look through here. So what have we got first? We've got Thunderbird, the new operator. So she's got two guns. She's got the Spear 308, which is Finker's assault rifle, obviously, and the Spaz 15, which is Cav's shotgun. She also has, for gadgets, an Impact and C4. It's quite interesting. She's a 3-speed operator with 1 armor, so she's very fast, she's flexible, she's mobile. For secondary, she's got the Bearing 9, which obviously with its new recoil and the buff to the barrel attachments is quite nice. And she's got the Ying Legion secondary pistol, which is a Q929. We've got the map rework for Favela. It's a casual rework, previously named Third Floor, are now named Red Stairs, so change of names for rooms. The map's small size, irregular exterior and vertically also remain. Nice. The rest of the map, including the overall structure of the main building, has been completely remade, so that's cool. Also, the map obviously is now in night, or like a darker setting, rather than during the daytime, which is kind of cool. Yeah, lots of vertical on it still, it says. Lots of destruction. It's not really designed for necessarily competitive play, and it allows for interesting strategies, that's for sure. And it's difficult for defenders to guard their objectives. Yeah, that's definite. Let's see what the balancing changes are. So, Melusi changes. Says, center of Melusi's Banshee's sonic defense will now be vulnerable to bullets, lasers, explosives, and melee attacks. The outer shell that surrounds the center is bulletproof but vulnerable to explosions. So now when you activate Melusi and you walk into it, after about 1 to 2 seconds, it opens up and you can shoot the black interior center of it, and then that'll destroy it. Or as it says here, you can do like before, you can punch them, and you can also use explosives on them to destroy them. Smoke changes. Yeah, smoke propagation, so smokes will no longer go through floors or walls, so you can't do smoke glitches anymore. That's a big change to smoke and removes a lot of strategy that was around it at times, and the way that smoke players were able to deny a lot of plants. That's a good change for the health of the game, in my opinion. Shattered glass will now be able to use a melee hit to shatter the glass of mirrors, black windows, Maestro's evil eyes, and bulletproof cameras. This is a really interesting change and quite a nice one. It's not necessarily as strong as a lot of people probably would make it out to be. It's great if you can get up close to the gadget and punch it. Obviously, a lot of times this isn't likely with a mirror window. For example, to be able to get all the way up to a mirror window right in front of it and be able to melee it is really, really hard. But the nice thing about Maestro's cameras, for example, is you can't now just put these in a super aggressive position, which are very oppressive to attackers who know they can't remove it unless they have some sort of explosive. They can now punch it, remove it, and force the previous passive intel gain through dead operators who could just hold the X key down and just constantly scan you. That now disappears, obviously, and you have to open up the camera, which means that Maestro's survivability is required a little bit more, and also a little bit more technique and skill in the placing of the cameras. Same goes for bulletproofs, obviously, as well. Nook changes. Okay, that was only a test server change, but that was the idea where she could walk through gadgets. That will be a very interesting buff, most likely very strong, and could see quite a bit of play from her. So, death changes. When player dies, they'll now be able to skip over the first-person death animation. In addition, the slow motion and opponent close-up that were previously part of the death replay have been removed. This change was made to help keep players in the flow of the action. Operator icons, when a player is eliminated, the transparent operator icon will appear in place of their body. This is an excellent change in my opinion. It removes the idea of client-sided bodies, which aren't fun for anybody when you've got a guy's dead leg in front of somebody potentially defusing on a breach or something like that, and it's not there for 4 other people on your team, but one guy has it and that happens to be the guy alive. Yeah, that's a good change. See, new scoreboard, the scoreboard 2.0. I get the idea behind it. I think it's cool that you have this round history, to call it, and like how you won the round, whether it be objective planted, I guess, round timer, pure elimination, and who started on what side, whether you started on attack or defense, and where you started attack or defense for OT. I'm not a fan of the overall user interface now. I think it looks a little too flashy almost. I thought the old one was quite nice. I get the idea behind it. I don't like how they've now changed kills, deaths, assists, but they haven't done that for spectator UI. And I think it's a bit interesting that they've changed it after so long in the game. Especially, and it's interesting how they've changed the symbols at the top here. So that's like the elimination, that's the death, that's the assist system now, rather than just having a K, D, and A. Overall, not a fan. I like the idea of the operator bands being here though, very easy to constantly remember throughout the round. Bullet hole changes, brilliant change. This is excellent. Shouldn't have been in the game. They were very, very annoying. It was very, very oppressive gameplay, and it wasn't really balanced, and it was a silly idea that, no, the idea of shooting one bullet hole could let you see all the way down into a room, so that's a good change. Operators price decrease, yep, that's obviously the usual when new operators come into the game. Other operators get older. The new seasonal weapon skin, does it say the name for it here? The Medicant bundle. Yeah, this is very, very nice. I think it's one of the better seasonal skins that the game has put out and that Ubisoft have developed, so that's very, very good. Big props to them. Operator balancing. Right, let's have a look-see here. Ash reduced number of breaching rounds from 3 to 2. Interesting change. Reduced R4C vertical recoil. Horizontal spread will be more constant, stronger to the right, and longer burst recoil will start on the 8th bullet instead of on the 12th bullet. Maybe a little too far with this. I get the idea of trying to reduce Ash's pick rate. At least from a competitive side, removing her breaching charges from 3 to 2 was a good change, but the recoil change, I get that, but maybe not necessarily needed as much for both of them at the same time. Next change, Finker. HP is now permanently granted, similar to HP granted by Doc's Stim pistol. Interesting change. Melusi. When Melusi's Banshee Sonic defense is active, the core becomes vulnerable to bullets and melee attacks. We saw this earlier on in the patch notes and review. Good change, I think. Overall, it removes the need for as much utility clear and explosives, at least at the top level, and it reduces a little bit the oppressive gameplay that exists. The operator is still quite strong because obviously it takes a couple seconds for the gadget to open up upon activation, and it is still very loud, and the idea of it letting defenders know where attackers are coming from and where the traps are, it still accomplishes what it's meant to do, but at least now you don't need to have Ash charges, grenades, Zephyr, impacts, or Gone 6 or something like that to be able to remove it. Rook. The deploy and equip interactions for Rook have been changed, so he now drops the armor pack and applies his own armor in the same movement. Small, tiny change. I personally like it. I don't play the operator much, but yeah, I can get why that's useful, and just, it speed things along a little bit for people. It's a nice just quality of life change. Valkyrie now has primary control over her black eye cameras, so she will take control over the cameras if another player is trying to use them at the same time, similar to Zero and Echo. This is a nice change, as they say, it puts them more in line with the other operators in the game like Zero and Echo, and in my opinion is a good change. I mean, the idea that, they're your gadgets, they're your stuff, and you can change them as and when you need, and you're the operator on them is decent. And if you're playing it casually and you just want to see something, you can't have a teammate who might be AFK on the camera, and it no longer allows you to see certain spots. So again, another little quality of life change can also be just beneficial for you, especially if you're playing solo or just as a duo with somebody else. Visual, increased vertical recoil, horizontal spread will be more constant, stronger to the right, long burst recoil will start on the 6th bullet instead of the 12th bullet. I understand this. I still don't think the recoil is actually that bad, to be honest, even though they said they've increased it. It's still a very good gun. Again, though, I mean, was it necessary? Maybe not. But yeah, I mean, it's a change. I don't think it makes too much of a difference. Zero, the Argus camera now uses the same resource management system as the shock drone. A shot is recharged every 15 seconds. The device has infinite ammunition, only one shot can be stacked. This is quite a nice change. Zero and buffs him, especially considering he lost his grenades a little while ago. I think it was about the season before last. So it makes it a little better, a little bit more strong. You can clear out a bit more utility, and if you can somehow get a Zero camera on site to clear out utility that people don't detect, or some sneaky spots, you can get more value out of it. Up next, bearing 9, horizontal spread is more constant instead of randomly moving to the left or right, and the next shot is close to the center. Nice change. I think the bearing 9 needed a bit of a buff just to make it more viable and put it alongside that of the SMG-11. It's good for operators like Thunderbird, so now if you wanted to run something like the Cav shotgun alongside it, you got something that gives you a bit of range. For Hibana, it's a great buff because obviously she only has 21 bullets in her primary, and it's just something you can have as a secondary gun. You can feel confident about it. I'm sure Hyph loves this change, especially considering he seems to run the pistol on the damn thing. And then also for Echo, it now means that maybe Echo Shotgun is back on the board, and you can play that if you really wanted to get a bit cheeky. And then SMG-12, first shot kick has been reduced and vertical recoil has been reduced. Horizontal spread will be more predictable and constant to the left, and long burst recoil will start on the 12th bullet instead of the 6th. This is another change, small one, but again, it brings SMG-12 alongside the bearing 9. into the forefront a little bit more. It's a little bit more usable, and whilst not as strong as they used to be back in the day, and not necessarily as strong as the SMG-11, which is which is strong and viable, it makes them choices which you can use in a gunfight at close distance, like SMG should, and you can have a little bit of confidence in it that, you know, if you can control the gun a little bit for the first half of the magazine, basically, you will get the kill, rather than, you know, a bit of spray and pray and hope. Tweaks and improvements, smoke balancing, so that's the smoke change, yep, that's good, as we said. A new sound will play when the canister is detonated. I haven't got an opinion on the new sound. I think it's a bit weird that they changed it. I don't think there was a need to change it, but yeah, there we go, they did. It's quite loud, that's for sure. Operators hit by the cloud will receive 15 HP of damage every 0.66 seconds until they leave the area of effect. That's a nice change, that arguably a small buff to smoke in the sense that it's a constant HP damage and there's no drop off. It does mean that sticking plants late on the round, especially if you're low HP, takes a little bit more skill, because you need to just calculate that in your head a little bit better, compared to players that got so experienced with being able to say, right, after X amount of seconds, you can more or less guess that the smoke canister will be almost doing, you know, 5 to 3 to 2 to 1 damage as it is, and therefore you can go for a plant. So that makes smoke a little bit stronger, especially towards the end of his canister length. Player comfort, diffuser interactions, auto pickup for the diffuser has been removed. Right, there's going to be the first change that I completely disagree with. I think this is pointless. I think it's a bad idea. It's fine if they want to add it as an option to remove auto pickup, but they should give it as an option which is changeable, so that you can say yes or no to it, because so far, as we've seen within EUL at least, there have been a couple moments where people have had to go back and try to gather the diffuser because they thought that they just picked it up by default, and the fact that you have to stop, almost crouch over the operator, or crouch over, sorry, the diffuser, look down at it, and then press F to be able to pick it up and, you know, collect it. It takes that extra second and a half, maybe at times, if you're very, very slow about it, which isn't good, and it means that you can't do any last second plants, and it's very, very complicated. I understand that maybe in the future it will become more innate to people and we'll just get used to it, but whether it was necessary, I don't know. I don't think it was, in my opinion. I think that should just been a setting if certain people wanted it, a bit like drone deployment or gadget deployment, for example. Interface preference update, options to hide the names of teammates and opponents will be added to the interface options. Yep, I mean, anything to make it to anonymize things if you want to is always nice. And this allows players to have a cleaner interface, yeah, especially for the purpose of recording content. Yeah, that's a great thing, and I guess some streamers will take advantage of that and enjoy it. Operators and statistics. The details and statistics page in the operators section has been removed. Players can now view their stats through Ubisoft Connect, the in-game overlay, and on the website. That's actually quite a cool feature that they've added, where if you press Shift F2 and you go to sort of your character, and you can see what you are as an operator, or as a player, sorry, on attack or defense, and just see what your preferences are. I think they have things like Heart Breacher, Gadget Denial, Gadget Removal, Roam Clear on for attack, for example. Heart Breacher, that's quite nifty, especially if you're a newer player to the game, or you're a guy maybe lower down in the levels looking for people to play with. You can now see what you may be playing, then you can try and find other people that match you, and you can kind of maybe, you know, piece yourself together in a team with hitting each corner of the I think of the Pentagon. I think it's 5 options that you get. Player cards, observation tools, added feedback in the player cards to show when an operator is using observation tools. Yeah, this is quite nifty and just cool and unique. It doesn't seem to work properly yet. There have been a couple of occasions where it shows, at least in, I think it was NAL, there was a situation where a player was in a 1v1. It showed all of his teammates looking at the operator that was last alive, and yet there was somebody on a default cam that was clearly on and being active being used by a defender. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, maybe not necessarily the most perfectly implemented system, but the idea that you can actually, you know, in the future see accurately who in your team is actually using cams, and if you go back and check it, or even at top level as pro play, you can actually see how often teams are on cams. That's something interesting. You can definitely see who maybe the lazier players are. Game health changes, abandoned penalties update. So penalties are now 60 minutes, 2 hours, 24 hours, and 48, depending on the level of escalation. Cooldown for penalties has increased to 7 days from previous 48 hours, or so 2 days. Renowned penalties have the same duration as matchmaking restrictions. This update only affects ranked and unranked. I mean, this is good. It means that you should get less people that come into your game that maybe necessarily grief it. They leave after a couple rounds where they're not getting any kills, and make you go into a 4v5 or, you know, 3v5 if you get 2 unfortunate teammates like that. So it should hopefully try to penalize people and put people off, not playing the game fully and seeing them out. One can hope that's the idea behind it. I'm not sure if it will work fully, but I guess it's a step in the right direction of trying to punish people for doing that. Bullet holes exploit line of sight through bullet holes and soft surfaces are now being blocked. Yeah, I've said that earlier. That's a great change. Well done, Ubisoft. Eliminated operator icons. The bodies of eliminated operators being replaced with transparent icons. Yep. Flash hider and compensator reworks. These are kind of interesting. I get the change behind them. I have seen some small differences in certain guns, but I don't think there's any either or is like super strong or super overpowered or makes a huge difference to any gun or any operator in itself. I think it still is really down to personal preference on what weapon you're using. Personally, I think Flash Hider, and I think from what I've seen, at least from my guys and other pros at the top level, Flash Hider still seems to be like one of the more frequently picked muzzle attachments, along with muzzle brake itself. Squad MMR restrictions for placement matches. Yeah, so this is an interesting change. From now on, the squad MMR restriction will apply to placement matches, even if the squad members have never been ranked. This is a bad change, in my opinion, and I'll be very blunt with it. I think Ubisoft needs to remove this straight away, because it prevents people being able to play with their friends. It encourages smurfing, to be perfectly honest. It encourages people to have multiple accounts to try and play with their friends. It causes a game of who's the greatest at maths, almost at times, when you're trying to create a 5-stack of who can play with who, especially if you want to play with friends that maybe are slightly lower down on the ranks ladder, let's call it. Or if you want to play with friends who haven't played for a while, they get punished and so do you. I think a good system is just have everybody be able to join a lobby together, and then whoever is at the highest MMR, if that means that it's a diamond and you've got a silver in there, the silver is being put in diamond elo. It is simple as that. I get the idea or the argument behind Ubisoft of, well, if you do that, then you might have plats who are in gold lobbies or diamonds who are in plat lobbies, and therefore technically they're not in the right rank group. But to be quite frank and be very blunt, if an individual wishes to put themselves in that group of people and they're happy with that and they accept it, great. Let them play with it, because I'm pretty sure they would rather and prefer to play with friends and be of a lower rank than necessarily be of higher rank, not be able to play with their friends, but supposedly be in their quotation marks true rank. Because in reality, what it means is you get to a rank, you then can't play on that account, and it might just sit there for another 2 months until you get the rest of your friends up there with you, and then you have to just sort of keep balancing and fighting around, making sure you're within the MMR range. And at 700, that's very, very limited. The 1000 still put off a lot of smurfing, but it allowed people at extreme ends of ranks to play with one another. I mean, if they won't remove it entirely, the 1000 MMR should come back, because that 300 MMR difference is very, very significant. And then map rotations, so the new rework map was Favela, ranked and unranked playlist. Favela is not features in either of those, and the newcomer playlist, Favela is replacing Coastline in the new map. Newcomer map pool, that's interesting. And the bomb sites are Coin Farm and Storage and Coin Farm and Bunks. So guys, this has been my Year 6 Season 2 patch notes review of Operation North Star. I'm at Secret Titan on Twitter. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't. Give this video a like, and we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.